Hello, and welcome to the Voice of SouthCoast Women, sponsored by the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women. I'm your host, Gail from the YWCA Southeastern Massachusetts, and today's show is about the topic of education. So we have four wonderful guests. They're going to tell us all about their institutions that they work for. If we could start here, just say your name, where you work, and a little bit about your school.
So my name is Alison Caito-Galligan. I am guidance facilitator K-8 and guidance counselor at Dartmouth Middle School. We do a tremendous amount of work in our school in terms of giving students leadership roles and community service opportunities to support our community.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Gloria Cabral. I'm a professor of baking and pastry at Bristol Community College. I'm also the co-chair of the Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women. Our programs, we do a lot with cohorts and working with our students to bring them out into the workforce at a much higher professional rate. And we work with the commission in a lot of different areas from, as you see, from middle school on up to the college level and in the community to educate our women and educate the families around them because it's all a support system.
My name is Sarah Herman, and I have the privilege of working at our sister school. It's a middle school for girls, grades 5, 6, 7, and 8, and we serve economically disadvantaged families. It's an all-girls school, so the opportunity for girls to find their voice and develop their voice in the classroom is exceptional. We are currently enrolling students, so if anybody's looking for 5th grade for next year, you should come to the school and do a school visit and check us out, grab an application. We serve students who are looking for an academically rigorous program and also a program that is founded in the values of community, citizenship, leadership, and excellence.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Juli Parker. I'm the Assistant Dean of Students at UMass Dartmouth, and I also am the Director of our Center for Women, Gender, and Sexuality. My job primarily is about helping students find the resources that they need to be successful within their academic experience. There's a whole student development piece that goes outside of the academic classroom experience, of course, talking about leadership, talking about skill building, many types of workshops and programs and resources that we help students connect with at the institution.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here today to talk about education, which we know is so important in our community and in our world to have a wonderful group of educated, not just women and girls, but families, so that they can be productive citizens in our community. So we have a wide range of different fields here and different school ages, but I'd like to start just briefly talking about early education, because we know that the data has shown and stats have shown that it's really important to get our children into school as early as possible. The Bristol County Commission on the Status of Women and many other groups are really legislating towards universal pre-K. We know that some of our schools here in our community have it, some don't. So as maybe to the middle school people here, our guests, could talk a little bit about the importance of universal pre-K, how having children start school at an early age is young and helps them as they enter elementary and middle school.
Well, it's, in Dartmouth we do have a pre-K program, and actually my son is in the pre-K program there, so I have lots of information to talk about there. But in terms of the movement forward from elementary to middle school, we just find that students, because they're addressing different skill areas at a younger level, once they work their way through the elementary and into the middle school, they're just more prepared. They have a better skill base in terms of not only academic but social emotional piece coming forward.
Okay, Sarah, anything to add to that?
I think that is pretty basic. That the opportunity to be skill building both academically and interpersonally at a young age as possible makes an incredible difference for their preparedness, for the skills that they need in order to be successful in their school lives.
Okay, so that's good to know. So all you parents out there that have 3- and 4-year-olds, try to get them in to pre-K, this coming fall. So as they journey through elementary school and get ready for middle school, what are you looking for in students? What do they need to be prepared to successfully transition from elementary school to middle school, and what can their families do to support them?
So I think in terms of just increasing the independence and having students be responsible for the behavior in their work completion, and supporting them with that, but also finding that balance that each child is different. So, working with families on finding the balance of supporting them at home while allowing them to take responsibility for their work too. And I think, in Dartmouth, we have PBIS throughout every building in our system, so in our district. So, all those positive behavioral incentives that we're doing in terms of encouraging positive interactions with peers is really, we can see a difference in each level. And once the kids are coming to the middle school, that's just part of who we are, and that, my principal has 2 real basic rules in our school: do your best work and be kind to each other. And that's embedded in every day that we're at the middle school.
Yeah, sure. Again, I would agree that do your best work and be kind to others. Those are skills to practice that will serve us well in life. And as far as preparedness for middle school, I would also add, in addition to learning to be responsible for your work and responsible for your actions, also an involvement in community activities is a wonderful thing to practice doing. It allows students to try new things and to engage with the kinds of things that will help them get more and more excited about the content that they're studying. So community service activities, sports are all ways that students can grow and prepare for futures, whether it's at the middle school level, high school level.
So that's a good point. Oh, you want to add
Yeah,
something to
I
that?
just
Sure.
wanted to say, in the community service component, I think is one of the biggest things that we can do as just educators, is just really promoting that, take care of each other, and that's embedded, as Sarah said. We have families that we adopt. We have students that support different students with different learning differences. We, do a lot of variety of opportunities for kids to get involved and see in these different areas that they can actually leave the middle school with and be involved in the community outside the school.
Okay. So as they get ready to journey on to high school, what do you want to make sure that they leave, say, our sister school with before they move on, to high school? What is one goal that you have for your students?
Well, it's hard to pick one goal, but I
Well,
would
you give me
definitely
two.
say, I would say
2 or
we need the students, of course, to feel confidence in their academic skill sets, and realistically so. They need to have a fundamental academic skills and also life skills. So being able to be organized is a natural challenge that all of our students are skill building with, and the more organized they are, the more independent they can be. Of course, in elementary school, they spend their time in one classroom. In middle school, they begin transitioning between classrooms, but they have a lot of support. And then in high school, they're much more on their own, so organization is key. Being organized in terms of their stuff, in terms of planning their workload out.
Right.
How are they going to balance the reading assignments, the writing assignments, preparing for tests, exams, midterms, organizing. So I would say academics, organizing, and then taking responsibility for their actions. One thing that we talk about a lot as our students are going through adolescence is, oops, I made a mistake. Owning it, moving on. And that's a hard thing to do. And it's really important. I think we know as adults how much easier it is when we acknowledge the mistakes that we make. And I think that intentionally teaching young people how to do that well makes a big difference in their ability to be effective in the professional world.
Accountability. It's a big.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely.
So those are some of
That's
many
I know
goals.
there's many.
Yeah.
There's many.
And
Alison,
I
yeah.
think, and Sarah's right on with all of that. But also, starting to think in the middle school, I think about just careers. What's your passion? What are you interested in? What do you enjoy most? So we give them opportunities in 7th grade. Actually, next week we're having a career day, and they're starting to create a whole portfolio that they'll create for 2 years. And then come high school, they'll be able to look at that portfolio and decide on what kind of electives they want to take or what high school they actually would like to go to. And it's all about passion, like what are they most interested about? What makes them happy? What are they intrigued about? And so during the next 3 years in the middle school, we want to give them as many opportunities through the after-school program and all these other things that we're doing to expose them to as many things as possible.
So transitioning now to high school and getting ready for higher education, and Gloria and Juli, what should high school students be working on? I mean, not just, in April of 12th grade, as, throughout those 4 years to get them ready, whether they're going to go to UMass Dartmouth or Bristol Community College or any of our other institutions.
Part of the steps, like they said, organization, accountability, a little bit of maturity, because as they get older, as we were talking earlier, in the younger grades, you have your parents. Now it's you're responsible to make sure you get to class. And we always try to say to the students, this is your job. You have to be accountable. If you don't go to school, you don't get paid as you would a job, so you're losing your education. So that's where the accountability comes. Organization is you are responsible to get your work done, and no one's watching over you, so you have to take okay, my dog that ate the paper doesn't work anymore. It's just say, okay, I have to get my work done. If I didn't because of my job, then you have to work around how, because as you get older, you have jobs, you have families. Some of our students are older students, and they have to work around these things. So that's where organizational skills are very, very important for them to succeed.
Okay. Juli, anything to add to that?
I guess the one thing I'm thinking about in terms of kind of STEM education or STEAM education is that one statistic I know pretty well is that girls in particular, and probably boys as well, decide whether they're going to go into the sciences by 10th grade. So if we haven't provided them the proper training or excitement about the sciences by that grade, I think once they get to college, it's too late. And I think we're kind of we tend to kind of focus on recruiting them into college to go into those fields, and it's already too late. That it has to really happen more in your middle school to high school jump when they're most excited about it. And I think, I often think about my own trajectory and what I went into, and I had a great experience my first year of high school in the sciences, and from then on I had teachers that didn't inspire me at all.
Right.
So when you don't have that opportunity, maybe I would have been one of those people that would have gone into the sciences versus the humanities.
Right.
So
Point,
that's
like
one
she
thing.
says, the inspiration of you're teaching them, you're showing them, you're guiding them, and inspire them to whatever they want. They will find their path a lot of times, but show them the whole, like I says, all the cookies on the platter. You can choose any cookie you like.
Right.
But try them all to see what better fits you or what you like better. And then once you find you like it, that burning inside makes you continue in that. And with science, math, they'll say, oh, math is amazing. In my field, it's important. Science is important. It's a science type thing. So they cross over. And that's what they see. And with STEAM, we talk about STEM a lot, but the arts is what makes you grow inside. It could be your dance, you could be your music, drawing, whatever, and that will continue your passion for whatever you choose. I mean, you have to love what you do to do well at it.
Right, no, absolutely. I mean, we want everyone to have careers that they love.
Yeah.
I could never see being at something that I disliked every day. We want, our families to have all the opportunities, and we know sometimes that doesn't happen. They don't have the information, they don't have access to that, or someone to help them, guide them, help them with essays, filling out the FAFSA, those types of things.
I would say I see a lot of students, and I think some of it's cultural, whose parents said, you have to be this or you have to be that. And they come to me and they say, I really want to be an English major, but my father wants me to be a doctor. So part of it, I think, on my end, when they get to college, is sometimes really having that conversation. Like, if you're really not passionate about the sciences or going to med school, you need to have that conversation with your parents that there is another trajectory for you, that you can be successful as a writer or as a teacher or whatever comes out of that degree that you're interested in pursuing.
And I'm glad you bring this up. If I can build
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
idea,
Absolutely.
it's hard in conversations like this to find all the points that you want to make because it's so fascinating and complex. And you bring up the idea of whether or not the girls are engaging in STEM and STEAM. And as a representative of an all-girls school, one of the things that we really try to focus on, and one of the reasons for an all-girls school, is so that the girls have the opportunity to find their voice, which also goes back to what you were saying earlier and about exploring different areas. And so at an all-girls school, all of the questions that are asked by girls, and all of the answers are explored by girls. And so when it comes, and they're building their confidence, so when it comes time to consider a profession in the sciences, they are so much more confident and well-grounded in their own knowledge that they're able to consider it. And we do have a lot of speakers come and talk about women who are in the sciences, talk about the hurdles that they had to jump in order to pursue their careers. And so, yes, providing opportunities pre-K, middle, high, all the way into college, so that students have opportunities to explore and to feel confident about whatever it is that they want to pursue, and not succumb to the social pressures of what other people think they should be doing. It's a great outcome of good education.
No, absolutely. So I think, I mean, we have wonderful institutions here, in our community. We're very fortunate to have that, and to have educators like you that are working with our students to, help them along their journey, making those, tough decisions sometimes of, what they're going to do. So back to, the higher education. I know, Gloria, you mentioned you have a lot of older students.
They call them non-traditional, older, usually making a second change in life.
Okay, I see.
They're looking, maybe they, like I was one of these type of students that after my children grew up, I decided to then go to college full time and continue my education. We have a lot of that, or we have a lot of single moms who, now the kids are in school, I need to do something for me.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's a challenge with them because of timing and everything else, but they're seeing that they need more, they want more, and they find they're more mature to what their choices are, and they know the challenges they will have, and they work around them, and they become very good problem solvers. And what I tell them, I said, you become mentors for your children as a non-traditional older student. And in our part, it's culinary arts, and you have culinary or baking. Traditionally, the women go into baking, the men go into culinary, but now we're seeing a big transition into a lot more females because of the job availability to go into culinary. There's more jobs for cooking than there are baking, and they receive a lot of challenges because that's definitely a male-oriented field, but they are realizing they have to meet those challenges, and usually, like I said, you always have to do twice as hard to equal to one male version of this, but they do because they have, again, it's that passion we talk about, the drive for it, and it is a fast-paced field. So it's nice to see that they are trying for that. And the younger students tend to learn from the older students because there are life skills that the older students have, and our students can range up to 70 years old. So, and all different levels. We've had rocket scientists, we've had chemists that come in, and so the students learn by being in a cohort of other people, and we try to put young and old and male and female together so they can all bounce off of each other, which is nice.
Thank you. What about at UMass Dartmouth? Is it mainly younger students, a mixture, older students?
I would say we have a pretty high population of the traditional kind of 18 to 24. Because we're a residential campus now, we have about a little over half of our students are residential students. We do have a pretty, I think, active, non-traditional population as well that now I think are fortunate that we have a lot of online opportunities for people that really meet their needs in terms of being single mothers, people who need to work a job during the daytime, who can take classes online. We were actually ranked recently as like the 10th best online university. And so I think that's been a new shift though for the kind of non-traditional population.
Sure, right.
We are unique in the sense that we actually have more men than women at UMass Dartmouth. We're about 54-48, and the national average is the opposite of that. So we haven't really drilled down enough to figure out what that is. I have my own theories about why that might be, the concrete perhaps. So we're not that kind of pretty, idyllic New England campus, with the brick and the flowers, and I think sometimes that might be part of it. Even though we have a very strong nursing college, but we also have a very big College of Engineering, which again tends to be, of course, more male-dominated than female. But I think in general, that's kind of the population that you're dealing with, is that more traditional age. Although we know that less students, are graduating from high school, and that all universities are going to be looking for a more non-traditional approach to getting people to come to college, because there just isn't the amount of students graduating from high school that can, filter into all of these universities that they have available to them. So everybody's going to be having an enrollment problem, like most schools.
All schools are having that right across the board, because I also work in another school. And it's the same thing, and the kids are coming in, then they're realizing the cost. And what helps with a community college more than anything else is the cost affordability. And for many of our students that younger come in and they go to a community college because it's a stepping stone. The maturity level we talk about, they're not ready for the other part of it unless, when more mature ones, they tend to go into a university or another school. but it's a good stepping stone for them to get out. It's they can live at home, and once they get that strength, they finish there, then they can transfer into any of the other schools, which is a very good approach for many of our students.
Are you seeing that more are going on to either UMass or to another school? Or they're going to work? Or?
They are, because we have like mass transfer, which will send them to like UMass for
Okay.
the same type, if they keep their grades up, or other school. We have some that go to Brown, Bentley, other, higher,
Okay, wonderful.
private schools, because they're seeing where their job goals are. If you want to go into the workforce and you did your, basic degree to get into the workforce, fine. But after that, if you find you want to go higher up in the educational ladder or a higher position in a job, you need more education. They're seeing that too. So they're slowly picking their path, but they're doing it at a rate that is good for them.
Okay. So I think this is a question I think everyone can answer. When the students leave your institution, what are your hopes for them? Where do you want them to go? What do you want them to leave with, even if it's only, certain things? We know that we want them to graduate, but what else is it that you want them to have?
I would say that one of the things, there's a lot, but a strong sense of community and community service and reaching out and supporting different types of organizations within the community. And also that they, along their journey through the middle school, they've found things that they are passionate about, that they're interested in about, and that they've looked at different opportunities for high school and what's the best fit for them, and then looking at the classes that would support that passion.
Okay, thank you. Sarah?
Sure.
So do middle school then?
Yeah.
College? Work our way up.
I love thinking about our graduates, and we have 100% of our graduates are in high school, which is wonderful, and 100% of our high school graduates, of our students who have completed high school, are in college. So one of our goals, clearly, is having an eye to continuing education, an eye to advancement, academic advancement. And also community service and an appreciation for and an interest in being civically engaged. So we also want the students to have cultivated a sense of voice, who they are, and how best to communicate their values and ideas in successful ways. And when you put those pieces together, I think you get an individual who's hopefully really prepared for what awaits them.
Next step.
Yeah.
Great. Gloria?
Yeah, I like to see my students, and I always call them my children because they tend to, we're a very close program in a cohort, create something of themselves, to make a name. I tell them, I say, there's a lot of students graduating with your degree. How are you going to stick out? What's going to make you better than? Not meaning, personally, but meaning economically, meaning socially, meaning communicative, to create a family of your own, not meaning your friends, your family, the people you work with, to make this a better place and make your work job a better place, and take what you know and translate it to other people to follow you and become a leader, not a follower. And my line always to them is, would you hire yourself? And I want that answer to be yes.
Oh, that's great. That's good. Julie?
Well, I think certainly we want them to graduate. Number one, right? That's our goal, is to get them out the door with a degree. But I think as well, because of my work is grounded in social justice, clearly I want the students that I work closely with to leave and want to do something to change the world and make it a better place. And I think I've been fortunate to see quite a few students go into similar fields or jobs that were about kind of working to do social change work, but doing something that they're passionate about, finding a job that they can make change or at least be passionate about and love very much, I think is what we really want to see our students go out in the world and do.
Now, Julie, do you see a lot of students coming back for their master's or PhD program at UMass, or taking a break in between, going to work?
I think we have a better graduate Thank you. program than we used to. I think I've done a lot of that kind of on my own for a long time. I've been a pusher for grad school, I think particularly for women, because if we know statistically, a woman with a college degree makes the same amount on average as a man with a high school diploma. So if you're always one degree ahead, you're going to be better prepared in the workforce to compete. I certainly think in this job market, especially even the one we had, say, 10 years ago, I think I was really pushing students to go to grad school because just going to get a job was a struggle in itself. I see a lot of students who are resistant to grad school because they think they have to pay for it. So there's, I think, a learning piece around getting assistantships and fellowships and all the opportunities that you can get to go to grad school. I push them not to come to UMass, which I probably shouldn't say that on television, but I think that going to another school at another place is another type of education. It's important, I think, to go elsewhere if you can, to have a new experience in a new state, in a new school, what have you. Certainly I do have students who've done, all of that at UMass Dartmouth, part of it because of convenience, part of it because of where they live. The PhD thing is a really interesting question that we could probably spend a whole half hour talking about, but I think we're in a scenario right now where you have people getting doctorates, but there aren't teaching jobs for them. So it used to be that those positions were set up where they would only accept so many people into a PhD program because they knew there were this many jobs in that field. And now you're seeing a huge amount of people who become part-time lecturers and cobble together jobs at 8 different institutions because they can't find that tenure track position because there just aren't any anymore. So I really try to help students understand what the commitment is to getting a doctorate, and if you're going to do it, you have to be ready to live anywhere in the country, to kind of start out, even if it means South Dakota, and that those are the kind of sacrifices you're going to have to make initially, I think, when you start out in a doctoral program and decide to get your doctorate and want to teach at a college. So I think, unfortunately, we're kind of setting a lot of people up for, I think, a disappointing outcome when we do encourage them to go into PhD programs in the culture that we're in right now with tenure track and the way that higher ed is set up.
A neat story about a link, actually, between our sister school and UMass Dartmouth going full circle as far as what you do when you get... We have a graduate who went to the Voc and then earned an Endeavor Scholarship and is at UMass. And part of the Endeavor Scholarship requires... one earns an Endeavor Scholarship through an interest in service, and so she is doing her service at our sister school. So it's a lovely loop.
Nice.
Oh, that's great. I'm part of the selection team for the Endeavor Scholarships.
Good.
Yeah.
It's a great program.
Yeah.
We had one at the YWCA too. Who
Yeah.
was
She was
excellent.
great.
She was great. I miss her dearly. She was wonderful, wonderful young woman who's now a nurse doing wonderful things. So we know how important, like you said, Alison, community service is to making you a well-rounded student and a well-rounded individual. Juli, I wanted to piggyback on something you said about the college degrees and making sure that you're placing women a little bit ahead of the game. I know you do a lot about workshops on salary negotiation.
Yep. So I'm a trained, I guess it's the AUW Start Smart project that came out of Evelyn Murphy's book, Getting Even, Why Women Make Less Than Men and What They Can Do About It. And so she started these series of workshops that teach college women how to negotiate their salaries, because while we know pay equity is a much bigger issue than just negotiating, one of the issues we know that's really prevalent for women is a strange inability genetically somehow to really feel empowered to negotiate. And I wouldn't say that if I hadn't seen actual evidence of it, where I had a dean who was a woman say to me that every man she had ever offered a position to had always negotiated, and almost every woman she had offered a position to didn't. So that workshop, I think, is really empowering. It teaches women how important it is to negotiate, that just because you got the job doesn't mean that's the best thing in the world, that there's more to asking for more at that moment, when to start the negotiation, when to talk about money, at what point in that process, when to say, forget it, and walk away. How to know how much you really should be making based on where you live geographically and what your expenses are. So it's a pretty comprehensive workshop that every student that has been through it has said it's one of the best workshops that they've ever taken, because it had really useful hands-on tools that they could then take out into the world.
Great. Well, thank you for that information.
Yeah.
So don't forget to negotiate, everybody. Out there.
Always ask for more, even
Ask
if
for
it's
more.
exactly what they gave you, right?
Exactly.
I've heard that too. Like, just ask for more no matter what,
Exactly. Last thing I wanted to talk very, very briefly, because I know we're running out of time on our show, is the summer learning loss. I think we hear a lot about that. So maybe Sarah or Alison, if you could just talk very briefly a little bit about what that is and what our families can do to help their students, over the summer, so that they don't, come back to school in September and forget everything that they learned all school year.
Well, I know in our district, our teachers do a great job through the administration, of course, but supporting them is just offering parents all these different types of activities they can do during the summer, and giving the students reading logs, and giving them opportunities to visit libraries, and ways to practice their math, and I'm always encouraging parents to reach out and make it fun. You know, you're watching the news, ask them what if, you know, and you're baking cookies, have your child double the recipe. So really just embedding math and English throughout your day when your children don't know you're doing it, you know.
That's good. That's good. Sarah, anything to add to that? Or?
Sure, I would say in addition to that, read. And there are so many online resources. Khan Academy is an example that has a depth of available tools.
Great, thank you. So any final words before we wrap up? Well, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for watching The Voice of South Coast Women.